Today's guest on the Powerhouse podcast is Craig Montgomery, Chief Strategy Officer of Lower. I'm Clayton Collins, CEO at HousingWire and your host for Powerhouse. And in today's episode with Craig, we talk about this brand new role, which he just embarked on in June of 2024 to help drive Lower to a whole new level of growth. The company has ambitions of being a top 5 national mortgage lender. And Craig plans to help deploy recruiting, M&A, and other growth strategies to really help originators find success and help catapult the organization to the next level. In this episode, he shares the tactics that he's learned in his career to help originators be successful and how he's going to apply that. I hope you enjoy today's episode with Craig Montgomery, Chief Strategy Officer of Lower. So Craig, in prepping for this conversation, I was checking out your LinkedIn profile and I absolutely love the headline, Shaping the Future of Mortgage Originator Success. What does that mean for you?
So I think, I've always tried to pride myself on being an executive for the originator, right? Making sure that I am providing originators the opportunity to have the professional and financial growth that they're looking for. I started in this business as an originator, so I have a pretty good feel for what originators need today to be successful. And shaping their path and shaping their future is sort of one of my responsibilities, making sure they have the tools, the resources, the platform to succeed. So it's all part of the job.
Do you think that's something that like differentiates you as a mortgage banking exec? Like, do you think there's other IMBs who've kind of lost sight of that originator first mindset, or like how does that differentiate?
Yeah, I don't really know, what others are doing. I try to stay focused on, what my responsibilities are. But I think that in my mind, one of my, main responsibilities is to make sure that we have a platform that allows originators to succeed. And I think, many times managers, executives get lost in other things that may not matter as much as originator success, because ultimately that's why we're here, right? We're here to make sure that, our originating team members have the most success possible. Without them, I don't have a job. We don't have a company. And I hope that attitude shines through in everything that I do.
What do you hear from originators about like what they care most about or what actually drives success? I mean, we always talk about tech and product and pricing and culture and like what the originators actually value.
Support, right? At the end of the day, they want to be supported. They want to be heard. They want to grow their market, but they need resources. They need strategies in order to do that. And I think you have to be a great listener. You have to have attention to detail, and you certainly have to understand what's going on in a specific market, because not all markets are the same, as we know.
For you, and we're going to jump into this new role that you're in. It's Chief Strategy Officer at Lower, but like for you and actually like bringing that like support and listening and access to fruition, like how do you do that at scale? Are you personally out there talking to hundreds or thousands of originators? You build a network or like a team around yourself? Like give us the glimpse of how you provide support.
Right now I'm just trying to get my legs underneath me, but the new role, I'm really excited about the future. I'm excited about being part of the Lower team. I'm excited about the role and responsibilities. I came from Cross Country Mortgage as the Chief Production Officer, and that's a little bit of a different role. As the Chief Strategy Officer, I'm going to be involved in the decision making that affects the company from a production standpoint. We've got great team members at Lower. We've got a lot of great people that have laid the groundwork, and I'm here just to add additional resources to make us better. And, I think our goal is very simple. We want to become a top 5 lender. We're not that today, but it doesn't mean that, we won't be. Everybody had to start somewhere. And when I started at Cross Country Mortgage, we were $1.8 billion and a minor blip on the radar screen. And 12 years later, we were number 1 in distributive retail. So I like to take the experiences that I had, the things that I learned, bring that to the Lower family, and really excited about where we can go and how we're going to get there.
I was just talking to another CEO about recruiting, and there's a lot of companies really take pride in and often or always recruiting or promoting internally into executive roles. But then there's like this other strategy of hiring the person who's already been where you want to go. Do you see like is that you in this scenario? Or are you coming into Lower as like the executive who's already been where the organization wants to get to, and like you bring that to this team?
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why, Lower wanted to hire me. And one of the reasons why I wanted to join Lower was, I've been there, I've done it, right? I wasn't solely responsible, but I played a major role in every aspect from a sales standpoint, going from zero to number one in 11 or 12 years. So I think I bring a lot of value to Lower. I've seen a lot of things. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've watched mistakes be made. And I certainly am going to try not to do that again. But, when you talk about recruiting, it's the name of the game, right? We need to make sure we are attracting the best originators, and how we do that is part of my responsibilities. And it's all about that platform, right? It's all about making sure that what is the value proposition for the originator so that they have the best chance to succeed.
So there's a lot of mortgage banks out there who want to be in the top five. What attracted you to Lower as an organization that you think can actually get there?
Yeah, number one was financial resources, right? I mean,
Yeah.
without the resources, you have no chance. When you're competing with the top five or the top 10, the one thing that they have over others is, resources, whether it be financial, whether it be tech, whether it be, other types of resources. So financial resources was number one. Ownership was number two. And the individuals on the executive team were number three. I just can't tell you how impressed I am with the individuals that make up our executive team, how impressed I am with ownership. um, it's refreshing to come into an organization. You're a little not sure of what's going on, and you're sort of trying to find your way. And when you're welcomed with open arms, the way I have been, it's really cool.
So Dan's built a super unique capital structure for a mortgage bank. Like looking from the outside, like seeing a firm like Excel Partners in there, like traditional venture investor, like backing mortgage bank, coupled with partners like Veritex and more traditional banking background. Is that like is that as a unique as cap structure as it kind of seems from the outside? It just seems awesome but unique.
It is. It's unique, and
Yeah.
like I said, it's one of the reasons why um, I ever even entertained an offer. Was that cap structure and those financial resources that are in place and those partnerships. It's not just the money, right? It's the
Yeah.
partnerships that are in place. And, I know that from looking from the outside in, if I'm an originator, which is what I always try to do, I know I can lay my head on a pillow at night knowing that, I've got a company that is financially strong and supported by those partners you mentioned.
So it sounds like recruiting is a pretty big part of the chief strategy officer role. How do you articulate or tell the story about like what's unique about Lower, or how this capital structure actually makes a difference for LOs?
Yeah, I think you just said it. It's a story, right? It's a story learning from page one to, whatever that last page is. I think it's a lot of it is listening and understanding what is important to an originator, because, each originator has a different list of things that are important to him or her. And I think that's really important is you got to be a great listener, but then you got to be able to tell your story. You got to be able to tell your story from a financial perspective, from an operations perspective, from a tech perspective, from a product perspective. But ultimately, we're in a people business, right? And if you don't believe in me and I don't believe in you, then the story can't really be told, right? Because there's never going to be a beginning and an end because we're never going to have a chance to develop a relationship. So for me, it's all about relationships. It's all about honesty, transparency, being in this for the right reason, right? And the right reason is to promote the professional and financial growth of that originator, of that team, or of that market.
So, Craig, from what I've seen from the outside, is that a lot of organizations, the chief production officer is in charge of recruiting. So, at Lower, do you have a chief production officer, or is that kind of a function that's shared amongst the executive team
Yeah,
at the
we do.
time?
No, we have a chief production officer. That's Randall Gillespie. Randall's responsibility is really managing the production of the groups that are associated, with the Lower brand. We have a
Yep.
chief growth officer, which is Amir Saeed. We've got a lot of talented people in place. Our leadership group, I would say, is fairly new. Everybody's finding their roles, but the most exciting part about it is that we're working closely together for the betterment of the originator, right? And that's what it's all about.
And I've had the pleasure of getting to know Randall over the years, and so he came in through the Thrive acquisition,
He
correct?
did.
All right, so you're in month one in the organization, but the other executives are also just starting to blend together as Lower has two big deals in the last year, right? My was it November was Universal Lending, and then December Thrive.
Yeah, and I think Thrive may have even been a little bit later. Um,
Okay,
I'm not exactly sure of the date, but you're right. Lower has been a company that was founder led versus executive led. And, while ownership is certainly active and plays an important role, the trajectory of the company is going to more of an executive led model versus a founder led. And I think that really is a major advantage for us as a company.
I think when the announcement came out that you were joining in this chief strategy officer role, Dan may have showed his hands a little bit, so there may be more deals in the future. Does M&A play a role in the strategy element of your job, or are you all on the recruitment side and that like fits differently in the org?
We're going to look at every opportunity.
Yep.
M&As are certainly going to be considered an opportunity moving forward. I think the important thing is to look for the right opportunity, and we know what's transpired over the last few years, and we know that there are some companies that aren't going to make it, and there's some companies that are really struggling, and if we feel that it can be a win-win for both companies, then we're certainly going to look at M&A opportunities. And, we've got some partners that, consider us a valuable resource. And, we'll take a look at any referrals that come our way. But we are certainly excited about, the thought of entertaining M&As as we move forward.
Yeah, not all. I mean, I think the M&A, the expected M&A pipeline in mortgage banking has been a little bit slower than expected, with a few stumbling blocks of deals that haven't worked out so well, and some false starts as well. From my vantage point, it seems like the Thrive integration has gone really smoothly. Is there anything the organization has learned about like that makes something a more or less positive acquisition target and like actually has a higher probability of close and a higher probability of integration success?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't here, to take part in the Thrive integration, but I can tell you that
Yeah.
what I've learned is I don't really. It was seamless. I don't even know how they
Yeah.
did it, to be honest with you. But obviously, they had some really important leaders that drove that integration. Whether it would be our chief operation officer Celine Kellum, or whether it was Randall, or whether it was other individuals that were involved. I think there's a tremendous amount of credit that goes to the entire team that was involved, you know, in this Thrive acquisition, because everything that I've heard, everything that I've seen, the pull through ratio of team members that onboarded with Lower was at an all-time high. And I think that's the most important thing when you look at any M&A is, first of all, what's the purpose of the M&A from both sides, right? And, what type of M&A is this? Is this, under the dark of night, or is this, executive led, managerial led? And, I think the M&As that are most successful have as much transparency as possible, because ultimately, from our perspective, the M&A is being done to increase production. And if we don't have production being pulled through and onboarding, then, it's probably not going to be a very good opportunity.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a deal that was handled with like some of the core elements of like successful M&A integration. Like, so communication seemed like it was like front and center. Market knew what was happening. Originators knew what was happening. It seemed like there was a very high degree of decisiveness, exactly how the two organizations would fit together, how management teams would come together. I've definitely seen like slower starts on like integrations before, and it seemed like this one like just came through pretty clear on like why the organizations come together and then how the teams actually fit and operate together.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been there's always, things that happen behind the scenes that are tougher, but like from the outside, it seems, masterclass.
Yeah. I think you said it, perfectly. All of those things aligned. And when you have that type of alignment, and I hate to use the word redundantly, but transparency, as much as possible, it really helps you achieve a successful M&A from both perspectives.
I think we've all gotten a little bit more comfortable than we want to be with this higher for longer interest rate environment, which is, definitely impacting volume. How does this current environment that we're operating in impact how you execute on strategy for what you're building in the long term? And like, so how do you balance like the tough market with like the growth ambition?
Well, I think number one, you have to identify producers that have, survived, right?
Yeah.
The 80-20 rule has now become the 90-10 rule, right? You got 90% of the production being done by, the top 10%. A lot of that has to do to attrition. But I think, what we want to do is, the playing field is pretty much the same for everybody, right? You've got some different things that you have to deal with, but when you start looking at the lower platform and what we offer and how we offer it and why we offer it and, how it's going to affect the originator, I think that's where we have an opportunity to succeed. It's not a one size fits all. And, it's not that the biggest are always the best, right? There's a lot to be said for, a small to mid-sized lender that is executing at a very high level and providing their originators with the tools and resources they need to be successful. Because at the end of the day, and I don't care what anybody has to say, it's all about the originator being able to support his or her family, right? And that's the thing that we have to keep in mind. That's our job, to make sure that we're creating, professional and profitable originators.
So do you think that like that strong leaning Pareto principle of the 90-10, like, is this the new norm we're going into where there are fewer originators that do a higher percentage of volume? And like, or is this a symptom or a complexion of the market we operate in today? And we ultimately, as we see a 6 handle and a 5 handle on rates, we see more originators come back into the game that in the world of doing 2 to 4, 2 to 3 loans a month is like kind of back in vogue.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the norm, but I would say it's the reality, right? The reality is that those who have pushed all in and decided that, regardless of the rate environment, regardless of all these external factors, that they're still going to be the very best originator possible. those are the people that are successful, right? And that's what we're going to do at Lower is we're going to provide opportunities, avenues, platforms to show you how to do that, right? We talk about a, sort of originator success, and we're lucky that we have Amir Saeed with growth only coaching. I've been around Amir for 3 weeks, and I just tell you, his energy is incredible. He's enthusiastic. He cares greatly about individuals and people. I think we have to be very careful. There's one thing to be said about a part-time originator that doesn't want to devote his or her time to being better, right, or getting better. But there's another, what I would call section of originators that are really trying to do what they think is the right way to proceed in order to grow their business, but they need that coaching, and one of the reasons why I agreed to come on to Lower was because of our internal coaching program through growth only coaching. I mean, it's a game changer. And I just think it's really important that everybody plays a part in elevating the originator performance.
How does growth only coaching work? Is that something that all originators at Lower access, or is it people who raise their hand? Like, what's the process and model look like?
Yeah, so it's available to all Lower originators, and then as you decide to go to a higher level of coaching, then there's different levels that are offered, but it's not a one size fits all. But what I always call it is equal opportunity coaching, right? You don't have to pay a fee. And many coaches today are more worried about their income or what they're charging than the services that they're providing. Amir is really, really passionate about coaching. And I think, originators, whether you're a top originator or, fall in the middle of the company rankings or you fall towards the bottom, you can benefit from his what I would call entry level coaching, and then you can make the determination whether or not you feel like you want to take the next step.
So everybody at Lower has access to the entry level coaching that's paid for by the organization, but people may choose to upgrade and pay more for higher levels of training, access, time. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really the coaching world and mortgage and real estate has always been like interesting to me. I mean, I came from the like financial services, like big bank world, and where all training and coaching is provided by the organization, and no one pulls out their credit card to like pay for like coaching for themselves. And it's been it's interesting how like I'm sure you have some originators who still pay for third party outside coaching even at Lower because they see some value in that external voice. I don't know. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, to each his own. I'm not here to play judge or jury on whether somebody should be charging for coaching or paying for coaching. I just think it's important that it's a company initiative, right? And we provide that platform to those originators that want to participate, and what they do after that, whether it's internal, external, is up to them. And I think, what I would say is letting the originator make the decision of what coaching they seem to think is beneficial is sort of where I stand, right? Because everybody, has a different way of wanting to be coached. Some people have a different way of delivering a message or hearing a message, so it's interesting. This industry has seen a rise in coaches. Some of it, has been great, and some of it probably not great. But I think that, it's up for the originator to decide what's
right
in it for me and what's best for me.
All right. So, Craig, earlier in the conversation, you mentioned the organizational ambition or goal of getting up to a top 5 lender slot. What is the we don't have to put exact dates in the sand here, but like what is the timeline and like path look like to that? Like what should we expect from Lower as this growth strategy comes into play?
we want to get there as quickly as we can, but we're not going to take shortcuts. We're not going to put ourselves in a position to where we're jeopardizing, the success that we're having, and we're willing to take what I would call a growth path that is best for our team members, best for the organization. I can tell you that it's going to revolve around some very aggressive recruiting. We are going to go out and we are going to solicit, and we are going to make sure that we are exposing originators to the lower brand. And then at the end of the day, we'll let the originators make the decision of which brand they prefer or which platform they prefer. It's not all about your sign-on bonus, right? It's not all about the money that's thrown at you. Those are what I call camouflages. It's all about what's best for you, right? Do we have a platform that allows you to be successful? You can have all the bells and whistles of everything you want, but if it doesn't benefit you, the originator, then what does it matter?
Well, Craig, phenomenal look behind the scenes on what's happening at Lower. Congrats on the new role, Chief Strategy Officer. It sounds like a perfect fit for you and a fun path and road that you have ahead of you to really support Dan and the executive team on building a top 5 lender.
I appreciate it. Super excited for the future. I don't think I've ever been more energized, more focused, using the years of experience that I have. And again, doing what's best for the originator, right? And that's what I'm really excited about. So appreciate your time.
Isn't it just phenomenal when you're around executives and like team members that like lift your energy up? That's something like our president, Diego Sanchez, and I always talk about, like when there's like meetings or team members or projects that like bring energy instead of drain energy. It's like a really good place to be as an executive. And we do everything we can to avoid the energy sucks. So I know where you are right now. It's a good spot.
Yeah. And I think, that credit goes to Dan and Mike. When you're empowered, there's just a world of opportunities in front of you. And, you've got a team that, is going in one direction. I couldn't be happier and just so excited for the future.
Boom. Wrap on that.
Thanks, man.